welcome to another edition of the RDFNL Footy Show, looking ahead to the upcoming round of RDFNL football. My name's Yeendy, excited to be with you as always. I'm here with Tara Murray from the Star Weekly. Thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having me.
Now, it is a big week in the AFL and the RDFNL as we're embracing and celebrating Indigenous round across Australia, which is exciting and great to see clubs in the past. They've gone out, new jumpers, the centre circles done up in Aboriginal Indigenous colours. It's great.
It is, and a lot of the clubs have really embraced it. I know it started in the AFL a few years ago, the Dreamtime game, Essendon Richmond.
Getting along this week?
I am, of course.
That's excellent, nice.
I am, hopefully seeing a third Bombers winner in a row, but fingers crossed. So it's good to see the local clubs. I know over the last couple of years there's been a few clubs especially who have really got behind it, wearing different jumpers, and I'm assuming there'll be a few more again this year. Yeah,
always a great day and great to see the clubs really get behind it, which is exciting for the competition and highlighting our Indigenous Australians, which is great. I know we've got plenty of Rockbank as well, which is special. It's good to see that recognised. We'd like to see a few more Indigenous players suit up in RDFNL colours. Hopefully in the next few years we might see that.
Exactly.
Fingers crossed. As we turn our attention to the first game, we were talking up Rockbank. Well, they are playing Macedon, and we know Rockbank always do a good job with promoting the day. And to give ourselves a little bit of a plug, there will be some cracking content in this week's edition of the RDFNL record as well. So check that out as well. Rockbank v Macedon. How do you see this one playing out?
Look, obviously you're going to think Macedon's going to get over the line quite easily. I think it's going to be a very one-sided match, but at the same time, for Rockbank, it's about doing what they have been doing and making sure they're competitive. They did it against Diggers Rest for last week for a half. So for them, if they can do it for 3 quarters, 4 quarters, and be in that competitive, the Cats are going to be hard to stop. We've seen them the last couple of weeks. They've smashed everyone who's come before them. So it'll be very interesting how that goes. Rockbank, I think, it's not only Indigenous Day out there for those guys. It's going to be a big day with Saxon Woodruff playing his 400th game, the first Rockbank player to play 400 games for the club. So it'll be a pretty special day out there. Exactly.
Good to see him, his efforts get celebrated as well. And if you haven't got over that story, make ssure you jump on the Melton and Mirrabel Star Weekly website or Facebook and pick up a copy to get that one out there. It's great reading. I can't see Macedon prevailing in convincing fashion because it is hard to kick goals out of any county reserve.
It is, but then if anyone can kick goals out there, it's Macedon. We've seen that they can pile on 9, 10, 11, 12 goals in a quarter and a game's over like that. So I think it'll be a pretty one-sided match, but I hope to see the rounds are very competitive.
Should be an interesting contest between the two sides, and I know Rockbank have won a game against Macedon in recent years over there as well. Melton Centrals v Diggers Rest. This could be a little bit of the unknown because Centrals did play one strong half last week against the Sunbury Kangaroos, and the same thing with Rockbank. They play an extra quarter that's a little bit better. Then look out, they might cause a few hiccups at home, especially with a little bit of wind at Arnold's Creek.
So yeah, I think this is one of 2 games where the winner is certain. I think Diggers Rest are going to get over the line like Macedon is over Rockbank. I think Diggers Rest, they're still not happy with how they're playing. They're not playing a full game. Obviously, you want to do that against the better sides and later in the season, but they're doing enough when they need to get over the line. So I think the Diggers Rest will get over the lines. For Centrals, they'll want to bounce back after last week. They'll be disappointed after last week. The first time playing a side that's likely to feature in finals, and they were easily beaten. So they need to be more competitive, and they'll want to be as well.
Tough run for them as well to have 2 big sides in the competition, probably in the top 4. I mean, they essentially before last weekend they were sitting in the top 4 themselves, but now they've faced big opposition, and they're really testing themselves where they're at.
It is, and we've said it before, they had an easy start to the season, so it was going to come a time when they're going to start having to play these top sides, and this is a start of a run with a few different of those sides in the top 6.
Let's look at the first of the 4 big blockbuster games this weekend. I mean, they're all blockbusters, but ones that might be hard to tip. Sunbury Kangaroos v Wallen. Wallen, since that disappointing round 1 loss, and I think they'll keep going back to that to go, well, that's where the benchmark is for them in terms of how poorly they know that they can perform. And again, they've just been tearing it up. But I guess you look at opposition as well, they really haven't beaten anyone in the top 3 this year. And this is their first big challenge.
Obviously, I was going to say it's their second big challenge because they did meet Diggers Rest a few weeks ago. Sunbury did.
Oh, yeah.
But obviously,
I was referring to Wallen.
Oh, sorry, Wallen. Yeah. For them, it's a challenge. They're yet to, besides Macedon, yet to play any of those top sides. So them, it's a chance to test where they are at. And I think it's the same for Sunbury Kangaroos to test where they're at. Obviously, they were very competitive against Diggers Rest, but like Wallen, they've played a lot of the lower sides. So, and neither of them have been really massive wins. They've all been solid, and I think Sunbury had a 100-point win over Broadford, but none of those massive ones that you think, okay, yep, they've absolutely dominated the game. So for me, this is quite interesting to see where they're both sitting. I think they're going to be around the same spot on the ladder, so it'll be very interesting.
Because they're both, I guess, well, we were coming from different perspectives, but thinking of different clubs, but realistically, the same scenario.
Same scenario, and you look last year, they both finished on the same amount of wins. It was only percentage was the difference between the two sides. So they're both on a very similar path, and to see who's got that upper level at this moment will be interesting.
I reckon Sunbury Kangaroos will be looking to extract revenge, probably indirectly, because when their game finished against Diggers Rest last year, it did come down to percentage, but unfortunately for them, Wallen's game was still going against Rockbank, and it was still going because they just kept piling on the goals, which effectively knocked Sunbury Kangaroos right out of the race.
Exactly.
So a little bit of revenge at Eric Borden Reserve could be on hand here. The game that I'm really looking forward to this weekend, and I am being completely biased about this one, Woodend Heskett v Riddle, and I'm just thinking shades to the premiership year back in 2007, where the Hawks weren't expected to get anywhere near it on grand final day, and then winning that magnificent day.
We're in 2017 now.
Yeah, I know, but I'm still thinking same sort of scenario here. I reckon the Hawks, there's something special about them heading into this week. That'll get some redemption. They won that game by 4 goals, or by 23 points. Remember that very well. I know I'm personally tipping, just for nostalgic sake, we're going to get a similar margin. How do you see this one going?
Very interesting, I think. You've got two sides that are both very young, both full of a lot of local talent, and at times have looked very competitive in their games, but they get to really get the wins on the board. I know Woodend got that win round 1. You've got Riddle got a win over Broadford, but there hasn't been much out to smile about for these sides. So it's going to be quite interesting, I think. I think it'll be a close one as well.
And this is why it'd probably be a tipster's nightmare, because in the past, you'd probably factor Riddle in over the last 3 or 4 years to win it without too much batting an eyelid. But now that they've lost a bit of talent, both teams are quite young, this could go either way.
It is, and we've seen the last few weeks that both of these sides have sort of been in the game until half time and then struggled a little bit after that. So who can run out the game better, maybe in the difference in the end?
I'm putting down the brown and gold on that one. Looking forward to that.
Done my tipping. I think I tipped Woodend, but I'd have to check.
Check out this bumper edition of the record to find out how Tara tipped, and obviously some great Indigenous stories in there as well. Just a chance to plug that one now. Another one that's going to raise a few eyebrows. We've seen a similar sort of game in another competition under AFL Goldfield's banner, where there was 2 teams that hadn't won a game at all. They line up against each other. In this case here, we've got it here. It's Lancefield v Broadford. How do you see this one going?
It'll be interesting. Finally, someone will get a win, and I think both sides will be itching to get on that winners list. It's been a tough start to the season for both of these clubs. I know they've both struggled with numbers for training. And under 18s
as well. There's only 2 teams in the competition that don't have an under 18s, and this is where they're at.
It is, and obviously looking at it, you'd think Lancefield would have the upper hand. They've probably been more competitive in their games, but you never know what will happen in a game like this. Broadford will be thinking we can win this week, really thinking we can win. Yes, you go into every game thinking you're a chance, but this is one week they'll think they've got more chance than they have in the past few weeks.
I think from Broadford have probably been a little bit more better in the improvement across most of their games this year, as opposed to where Lancefield are at. I expect Lancefield to be a better side than what their results have produced, but I'm hearing Broadford are performing a little bit better, and that's probably why I've gone for them this week on foreign territory. Just there seems to be maybe a little bit of redemption as well. A lot of those guys played in the prelim when they ran last year. I think they'll try and take some of that motivation and try and fire them up. And especially James Philpott, outstanding player and a good developing coach too.
I have gone the other way. I've gone Lancefield. I think the Tigers will get over the line. I think they're a little bit further ahead. Obviously, you've got a side that's just missed out on finals the last couple of years. They've lost a couple of players, but probably nowhere near as many of what Broadford have. So they've still got the core group they've had the last couple of years. And for them to not have a win to start the season, they'd be really disappointed with that.
Last big game and perhaps match of the round, we've got Romsey v Rupert's Wood. Probably wouldn't have thought that this would be the game that would keep people on the edge of their seats, given that Romsey's performance has been strong, and Rupert's Wood, they've finally got that big game that they're really hanging for, and this is a big challenge for them.
It is, and it is a real challenge for Rupert's Wood. And I was speaking to Kev Fitzgerald on the weekend, and he said they've got a real couple of testing weeks. Obviously, they lost to Macedon earlier on in the season, but they've had convincing wins in the rest of their matches. They've got Romsey this week and Sunbury Kangaroos next week. So this is going to give a real test to where Rupert's Wood are at. I know they did get a few recruits in the off-season, but they're yet to get them all on the park at the same time. So Ruperts would need to be playing near their best to get over Romsey, which a lot of people would have thought would have been an easy win at the start of the season. But the Redbacks have shown they can match it with anyone.
They are finals contenders this year. There's no doubt about it, the way they've gone about proceedings. And they just had one ordinary half against Wallen, and you don't want to look back in the past too much, but I think they've learnt from that because they've won back-to-back games since that match.
They did, and they knocked off Diggers Rest. So to knock off Diggers Rest, it must mean that you've got a lot of good players and you are working really well together as a side. So this could be anyone's match, and like you, I think Romsey are a genuine finals contender at this point of the year.
Should be watching with that one with great interest, as the last time these two teams met was on the deck of Romsey Park, and Rupert's Wood won by a goal in thrilling, heartbreaking circumstances. So we'll hopefully see some good closeness there. Tara, thanks so much for joining us this week, and for more of the great stories coming through that from your work that you've been doing, check out the Star Weekly website, or follow some of the stories that we've got online or through Twitter. There's plenty of great stories there. We're going to give you a plug while you're out here as well.
And hopefully there'll be a few more exciting matches this week.
Excellent. We look forward to seeing you guys out there this weekend. It promises to be a cracking week of football. Look forward to seeing you there.